All right, we continue our focus on Minister Senzo Mchunu's testimony this afternoon. SABC News senior reporter Canny Maphanga is following the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and joins us live from Pretoria with the very latest. Good afternoon, Canny. So the directive by the Minister to establish an Eastern Cape taxi violence task team on the same month he directed that the PKTT be disbanded seems to be have been quite the talking point between commissioners. Just share with us some of the issues or challenges they found with these opposite directives on the very same month.
Indeed, good afternoon to Mfundo and to the viewers. Well, the task team you've just mentioned speaks to, I guess, the contradictions that come up during Senzo Mchunu's testimony that is listed in his directive, and in contrast to the conduct and manner and approach in which he disbanded the PKTT. Now, the evidence you're relating to is in relation to this sentence in the directive that stated that these task teams are constitutionally untenable and administratively untenable. Well, the question then that emerges from the bench is that if it was an understanding that task teams were no longer tenable and that they needed to be formed part, or rather integrated into the organizational structure of the South African police services as a whole, why did that only extend to the PKTT and not the other task teams that are in existence and continue to be created throughout time? But as we continue to hear this testimony, Mfundo, the common theme that continues to run out, or the possibility that exists, because one can state that the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, actually came prepared for this particular testimony. However, the contention that he seeks to advance runs counter to his conduct, the manner and the approach in which he disbanded the PKTT. So we've seen him seemingly try to reconstruct the evidence and, of course, bring in instruments as a means to back up or justify the decision, but instead what it has done is created more questions from the bench. You know, there's a report that he refers to quite often, the Marai report, and says that that is one of the instruments that he used in order to disband the PKTT. But that report, Mfundo, can't override the most recent IMC resolution, and the IMC is the body that establishes this PKTT, which is as a result of the president saying that we need this intervention in light of the prevailing problem of political killings in KZN, and which is flaring up closer to elections. But instead of reporting back to that resolution, which states that this PKTT team is doing well and is very much needed and there are no concerns, he refers to this Marai report, and it cannot override this resolution that existed in December prior to him joining office in July of that following year. So the question remains that in the 5 months, what informed him to take such a drastic decision in that manner that would have such a serious impact on the mandate that it was created to solve? Because we do know that elections continue every 3 years, whether it is national or those local government elections, and we know that these types of murders, or these special kinds of murders, take place closer to the election period. And we're not getting a forthcoming answer from the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, as to why he would have made such a decision without having a review at the time, without consulting top management, but using these instruments of a Marai report and, of course, this allegation of human rights abuses against the PKTT, which he doesn't even discuss with the National Commissioner. A lot of this contention which he seeks to advance before the Madlanga Commission doesn't run in harmony with the circumstances surrounding the decision, the events leading up to it, and of course the manner and the approach in which he takes it, which leads to the bigger question as to what could possibly have been the motive or the alleged influence, if any, that could have informed him to take this decision to disband the PKTT. We know he was at great pains to try and change it from a disbandment to an integration. But of course, that also falls flat because the Deputy National Commissioner, Sabia, goes and issues a directive straight afterwards saying that these police officers must go back to their stations, and then he moves the dockets from KZN to the Pretoria headquarters. So how were they going to continue with that murder and robbery objective, or be integrated there, if they were told to go back to their stations, and then of course the dockets were taken in totality and moved for auditing purposes, or whatever the purpose may be, the Madlanga Commission will get to the bottom of that, to the Pretoria headquarters, and subsequently stalling those investigations investigations allegedly, as seemingly the evidence we're hearing is that they just sat there and didn't move to any critical units or this murder and robbery, specialization that he keeps relying on, and the investigations didn't continue. And as we speak today, the PKTT still exists and is continuing with its work. So certainly questions continue to mount for the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, as the rationale is just seemingly not adding up. The contention he seeks to advance versus, if you look back at the conduct and the manner and the approach, is simply not coming together through this cross-examination. We expect that when the commission returns at 2 p.m., I understand, I've seen that his counsel, that is Senior Counsel Advocate Toby, has made it to the venue. That means that at some point in the afternoon, you may see that re-examination, and it's possible that we may go on into the late hours of today. However, that cross-examination has proved that there are certainly a lot of flaws in the manner, the conduct, and the approach to the disbandment, or now what Mchunu contends to be the integration of the PKTT into the SABC structure.
Certainly from where we are, it looked like a very challenging day for the minister there at the Commission. Canny, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for that comprehensive wrap.